Right now we're going to talk external requests. And the way we're going to do that is with Chuck Norris, because Chuck Norris kicks ass, and everybody knows that. So this tutorial is only going to be a small tutorial. It's using APIs and making these external requests well is really beyond the scope of this basic ManyChat tutorial. So here's what we're going to set up. Okay, so I've already done it a little bit because I wanted to easily show you guys. What we're going to do is we found an API, and that is the Chuck Norris API. Okay, and what we're going to do is we are using the free text search. So we're going to copy this API endpoint. So really it's like something you would paste in your browser, and we could do it now even. I'll go back more. Here we go. So we'll paste it in. And instead of query, we can say something like kick ass. And it returns all of this stuff, the JSON. Now, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it too much. I'll show you quickly and easily how to get the answers or responses you need out of it. But ultimately, if you want to do something complicated and well, you'll probably need a developer. So first thing we're doing, we're going to say, like, okay, when somebody comes in, I want them to be able to ask anything about Chuck Norris, and then ultimately I want the bot to spit out a response from the API. So we've set this up with a user input, and it's just saving the response to a custom field. We were going to do a Yoda one, so that's why it says test user text to translate. So you can save in the custom field, or you can use the last user input. It's not called a variable. I can't even think of the word, but variable. Last text input. We can also use that as well if we're just taking the last thing somebody typed in. Okay, so user input, save it to a custom response. We're going to send that response to the API. Okay, so this will look familiar, right? That's the API endpoint with query equals. So we just replaced that thing in the curly brackets with the ManyChat variable. All right? And we're changing this to a get, the request type to get. We can test the response here, or request rather. And we see this 200 okay, so that means that the request went through, and here's the stuff it came back with. Now we need to map the response that we want from the JSON. Okay, so this is called Json Path. It's frankly, it's easy enough, but you don't need to know it, is the nice part. All of the JSON responses typically follow a very simple pattern. So what we can do is go over to something called JsonPathfinder.com. Very handy. So we're going to delete all that. Oops. And we're going to go back here to the response. We're going to copy all of that. Oops. Okay. Well, let's make it easy. So we'll take this part of the response, or part of the API endpoint, and let's type in kick-ass. Okay. So we're going to copy all of this, just because it's not easy to copy from ManyChat. Again, if this is too hard for you, ask somebody that knows how to code. And we're going to paste it in here. I'm going to hit beautify so we can see what's actually going on. And you can see here we have 2 total results. And here's how they're categorized or laid out in by the JSON in JSON. So we really are after this value, right? So if somebody puts in kick-ass, this value is, can you spell Chuck Norris without using any R's? Answer yes. Oh, I see. What do we want here? Yeah, so that's the joke. So it's just going to come back with 2 kick-ass jokes. So can you spell Chuck Norris without any R's? Yes. Chuck kick-ass. So it wasn't a funny joke, apparently, but that's what we want. We want the value. So we're going to come over here, and you can do something more complicated. We're not going to. We're just going to take the value from the first result, which is actually result 0, and value. So up here, we're just going to copy what they've done. Okay, so then we can come over into response mapping, and you'll notice we just paste this in here. Now, to get this to work, we're going to delete this X and replace it with a cash symbol. And save it. So now we can preview this. I'm sorry, there's one last piece. We have to display or get the bot to use the custom field that we just saved the response to. So again, we saved whatever this query is. The response is going to be saved in test translate. So the next message we want to send is test translate. Let's preview it. So ask me anything about Chuck Norris. Can Chuck kill a man with his pinky? Let's see what happens. I have no idea. I haven't tried this. So actually what happened here is we got to our fallback. So if something doesn't actually work, we want to make sure that in this custom field, we're using a fallback response. So the user gets something. Let's preview this time. Let's do something a little more. So there you go. When Chuck Norris kills, the government fully covers all the funeral expenses as ordered by the UN. It's truly the only good thing they've ever done. Again, that's so funny. But there you go. Chuck Norris API. This is how you use external requests. You can do some very cool stuff with this and dynamic blocks. But you do need to know how to code a little bit or get a developer who can really do this for you.